Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, another episode of Fight Court. I'm Dean Thomas, alongside my man, the mighty Ryan Quinn, doing big things. But we have issues, we have problems, we have things going on. We always do. How do we fix these things? That's life, right? That is life. Right now, one of the major issues going on in MMA is the rankings. And it's weird because, Ryan, I didn't even know that they were a real thing. Like, did anybody pay attention to them? I know, like, if you go on the UFC's page, like, the UFC has their rankings. And I thought that's what the UFC used. But now, like, when you see Dana White having this rant about Khalil Roundtree not moving up in rankings, and then Moicano not moving in rankings, you're just like, wait a minute. If the UFC is in control of the rankings, how is this not moving? And then who is in control of the rankings? Do you know who's in control of the rankings?
I was actually going to ask you that. I did from what I'll tell you what I came up with. It's funny.
All right.
I know we said we're going to talk about rankings. It's like we don't even have one particular ranking in on our mind. We just want to talk about this whole fucked up system. So I remember when the UFC started doing their own rankings because Dana was so sick of the official rankings or whatever. Now the official rankings, and it's so weird. This is like this in all mainstream sports. Basketball for MVP votings, baseball, football, all for MVP votings. In college, it's all the same people. It's all the same industry that are these people. It's always a committee, a committee from the media, from reporters. And I guess that would make sense why it started. That was the origin, because these people are going to come up with some content that the fans need to read. Like, could you imagine the first time in whatever sport it was, they came up with rankings? Like, that must have been fucking cool. Like, that must have been really damn cool.
Dude, so back in 1994, when the UFC first came out, like, it was like probably UFC 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I was as passionate about fighting as I am today. It never lost me. I remember I came up with my own ranking of UFC fighters.
In 1994, who was your top? I'll get top 8. So we'll talk an ultimate. Who was your top?
Well, I mean, it's gonna be hard to remember now, but it was. I remember thinking it was like Royce Gracie, obviously Royce Gracie and Ken Shamrock, and I remember Chemo was in there, and Pat Smith was in there.
Yeah.
And Gerard Gordeau was in there.
Wow, that's like really, really early.
Yeah, it was. And I remember doing this ranking, and I remember I actually ranked like 25 guys.
Wow.
And I was like,
whole roster back then.
Yeah, I had like the whole roster all lined up. But you're right. There's something about a ranking that gets us excited about the sport, and it actually adds a level of enthusiasm to others to be involved. Okay, these are the best guys. This is supposed to happen. But like you said, no one really knows. Now, Andreas Hale, a guy who I work with a lot at ESPN and on Sirius XM, he was on the media that did the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he didn't know anybody else on there. It was like they would get like this email, and it was just kind of like a drop box of like names, and you just kind of ranked them.
You know, I shot out a text. I probably should have done it earlier today, but I shot out a text to Mike Bond with MMA Junkie, first asking him if he's on the committee. I feel like I've had this conversation with him before, but I want to ask him if he was on the committee and if he knew anyone who was. But that's pretty crazy that he didn't know who anyone was in that committee. It's like, where are you pulling these people from, and what are their criteria? And what is their criteria, and what is the criteria we're looking at to get these players or these fighters ranked?
Well, yeah, that's the weird part. Like, no one really knows what the criteria is. It's almost like they eyeball it. Now, he spewed off a couple of websites that are on it, and they were like, he didn't even know what those websites were. Like, it's so, like, and a couple of them weren't. Like, one of them that he spewed off wasn't even an MMA. It was like a boxing site. So it's weird. Like, no one knows who's doing these rankings and why these rankings are the official written in stone rankings.
So I could see why the UFC, like, they got other battles to have, so I could see why having control over the official rankings isn't top on their list of priorities. Like, at the end of the day, like, that is, I guess, kind of a media thing, but you should have people with some kind of background, not necessarily in the sport, not necessarily fighters. I feel like fighters rely on that shit all the time whenever they're fighting with people and about stuff in MMA. You need some fighters in there. But like,
No,
have some kind of,
you just need people who understand the process.
yes, like, have an established education of the sport, or just like the people that we mentioned, like, or like a John McCarthy or something like that.
Yeah. I actually hate when people assume that fighters are going to be good at any other job other than fighting. Most fighters ain't even good at fighting.
Yeah, they'd be doing any other job.
You know what I'm saying? Like, most of them aren't even good at the job that they're supposed to do, much less be a ref, a judge, a media member that can do ranking. Like that, they're not qualified
And
for
they're going to
that.
be so. I can't stand when people say that fighters should be judges, because then because they actually know the sport. I'm like, yeah, right. Every fighter that's a judge is gonna want to see them fight. They're gonna want it. They're gonna judge what they're good at. Hire
Yeah, yeah, no doubt about that. And that's what it comes down to. There's always a bias. So that brings me to the rankings.
Mhm.
So I asked my buddy today about college football, and he said that it's done by the media. Like the first half of the season is done by the media, and then the second
Right.
half they have like the NCAA poll or whatever.
Mhm.
But he said that people always complain, no matter what. People are going to complain. So then it brings me to the point, like, if people are going to complain, there's no real way to fix it, because we can't stop human bias. We can't stop that, because no matter what, we're always going to have a bias towards something, whether that is entertainment value, which should have no real place in ranking, right? Like entertainment
Yeah,
value,
it should be removed. Yeah.
that should be removed, but we often don't remove it. In fact, we actually value fighters more for being entertaining and think that they should be higher ranked because they're more entertaining. Now, with that being said, I think Dana White might have had the best solution to it all. Uh-oh.
I hear you. I don't see you.
All right, and I'm not stopping. It's my camera be turning off sometimes. It be acting whack. But I'm not cutting it. So, and I'm going to keep talking. So Dana White had the best solution to it all, and that was to have AI do it.
That's cool. I didn't read what he said. I just saw he was pissed off. But that's pretty brilliant.
I mean, if you're going to have a ranking system and have it unbiased, the only way to do it is to have AI do it. There we go.
Here we go. Yeah, it's just put in the simulation. Now, what is the criteria have? The other thing about rankings too is, like, at what point do you just erase fights from the weight of your rank? Do you know what I'm saying, like that? Like I lost in my third pro fight, and then that guy retired like a year later, and I went on to fight at a much higher level. Like, how far down does that fight drag me in my ranking?
I know, right? Like, you're right about that, because if you had some early losses, like, does that affect you? And that's why I think AI is probably the best solution for this, because they'll be able to calculate it in a way that's strictly fair, because they're strictly looking at numbers and measurements. Like, this is going to weigh this much. Like, a win against this guy at this time weighs this much. The strength of your schedule.
I think that this is where MMA could use analytics, AI analytics. But what do I mean by that? Like, because you could actually pull up on an Excel sheet, as long as you got to decipher how much wins mean. Like baseball, they call it WAR, like what your overall value is. But you got to decide how much wins, which wins like mean how much: submission the first round, or finish first round, second round, blah blah. And then put your losses next to it, how much those weigh, whatever. And then you could put a formula in your Excel sheet with your whole record, and then you can come up with your your score, not necessarily your ranking, but your score. That's something they might be able to do. I'm sure they don't do it. I'm sure it's so much more difficult than what I just said, but that would lead to the AI. That would lead to that. But I'm totally down with that. Like, take
Yeah,
people out.
there's no other way. Like if you were to say, all right, AI, we're only basing this on this criteria, like their wins, how they won, the person they did it against, the records of the person they did it against, when they
Where they
did it.
won. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we're removing the bias out of it of, is he a fan favorite? Do we like him? Is he a big money seller? Like, you have to remove that in terms of ranking.
Yeah.
And we don't remove that. Like, that's a part of it. It's the reason why Mario Bautista got shit on for his win over Aldo.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we put all the blame on Mario Bautista. No one said, man, Aldo's job was to get off the fucking fence.
Yeah.
But because everybody likes Aldo, we were like, Bautista sucks.
Man, we see that a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
MMA
So
fans are fickle.
yeah, that's my point. Is that no one's going to be happy. But I think if you had AI do it based on the criteria of the X's and O's, purely the X's and O's and the analytics, they'd be able to come up with a formula that was fair. And it would make sense as to why. And also to activity. Like, to me, that's the biggest problem with the ranking system now is activity. Why in the hell is Colby still ranked?
I didn't even know he was still ranked. When was the last
Yeah,
time he fought? 2 years ago?
like 2 years ago. Like, he's
I
and
thought
I
you
don't
get
get
out of the rankings if you haven't fought in 12 months or something like that.
right. Like, if you haven't fought in a while, I don't care if it's an injury or I didn't fight because I was hurt. Well, man, give up your spot. Come get it later. You can come back and get it.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to come back and get it, but give up your spot, man. The game got to go on. Like, we got these guys in the rankings that are injured and out and just holding on to their spots. It's like, yo, give up. You got to give up your spot, man. You can't hold on to this spot.
I guess being a champion removes you, or you have that keeps you from that argument. Like John Jones, for obvious reasons, he didn't fight. It's been over a year since he fought. But yeah, I'm with you on that. You know, just that's how you promote new talent too. Is, oh, so and so's out. Look who's moving up the rankings. Look, and then you can have, let's say that they're a weaker fighter, moving up from the 15 to 10 or whatever. Then you can have your big name that sat out for a while come back, fight that person, and it's got some buzz to it. So.
And my man Mike Russo, the producer of my show on Sirius, said that another thing that bothers him, and I thought about this, it never occurred to me, but I thought about this too, was that when the champion loses, they automatically become like number one, which is a bit stupid. Because, sometimes guys become champion just like they were just the next guy up and they happen to win, right?
Right.
Like, there's a lot of guys out there that probably will beat this dude.
And then they're being called the number one. Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, so like I think that's a bit unfair. Like, for me, like Izzy right now, what is Izzy ranked right? I'm not sure what Izzy's ranked right now.
I don't know. I still don't put a whole lot of weight into the rankings. Maybe it's just because I'm old school. And like you said, there really wasn't rankings until like 12 years ago, maybe even less. So like I know who's on the level. I mean, granted, that's the sport's gone in that direction. I got to follow the rankings more, but I do like about the rankings, though. You said about college football. I do love seeing how, especially on these fight nights, when you have a 3 and 6 ranked fighter in the world in their division, right? I think that's awesome because that's like college football. When you have a 3 and 6 in the country, that's a prime time event. Like,
yeah. I mean, it makes it. You can. I mean, to me, that's what you can sell. Like, when you're doing a fight night, you could be like the number 6 ranked guy taking on the number 3. I mean, that sells. Like, even if you don't know who they are, you're like, oh my goodness, the number 6 and the number 3. Yeah. Oh my goodness, I gotta see this. Yeah, I like that. I do like that. That makes that adds a level of excitement that we don't always get. Like, even if you don't know who they are, we still like that. But moving on, I think we've kind of covered, or at least I've covered everything I wanted to cover on the rankings. But I want to talk about a card this weekend coming up, the Battle of the Giants, and see if we can't make some sense of this thing too, because Francis Ngannou is taking on Renan Ferreira, and it's a big card, a major card. How much buzz or how much interest do you have in this card?
I mean, I'm interested. I'm always going to watch Francis. It's especially his first one return. This is his first MMA fight outside of UFC. Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. First MMA fight outside of UFC. First MMA
And
fight in 2 years.
he's still arguably, regardless of what anyone's opinion is, he's still arguably the best heavyweight in the world. So there's still a lot to it. Yeah, I have some interest behind it. Yeah, I have some. I'm not like jumping out of like I'm not like going crazy, but yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. What about you?
I've never really been interested in PFL cards. I mean, I'm gonna talk about it, and if something good happens, I'll go back and watch it. But I'm not gonna watch it during when it's happening. Like Saturday, I'm not gonna be like, yo, PFL's on. I'm not gonna watch it on Saturday. But if something interesting happens, I'll definitely go back and watch it. If there's a fight that if the Eblin Edwards fight ends up being really good, I'll go back and watch it. If Larissa Pacheco beats Cyborg, if Larissa Pacheco beats Cyborg, I'll go back and watch it. If any fight on the card I am interested in is the Paul Hughes AJ McKee fight. Like I'm actually interested in that. Again, I just think that it's coming on in the daytime on Saturday, just at a weird time.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I guess it shows you how interested I am. I didn't know what time it was.
Yeah. So it's coming on at a weird time. It's a weird event. But I'm not going to knock it. I'm rooting for them to have success because to me, I feel like this could make or break the organization. Not necessarily make the organization, but it could damn sure put a big dent in the organization if this thing flops.
Right.
And I don't want that, man. At the end of the day, I don't want that shit to happen to any organization.
Like as much as we were shitting all over Don Davis last week, it's like at the end of the day, he's still putting on a major promotion that some of our friends and colleagues can go make money at. So it's still more MMA, which is a fantastic sport for people to watch. So I want them to succeed. I want other places for people to go.
Yeah. So best of luck to the PFL. We'll put that segment. You had some boys that wanted to sponsor a segment?
Yeah, we got our first sponsor. This episode of Fight Court is brought to you by Graps Finger Support Compression Gloves. I was using them for jiu-jitsu today. Got my Dr. Spot going on, like the little grippies there.
I'm definitely using them, not for jiu-jitsu though.
How did I know that was coming? Oh, they're just still wet and they smell. I forgot to wash it. Anyway, it does keep your fingers together. You don't get caught, especially with the gi. But especially those of you who really know about jiu-jitsu, you don't get degloved with the ring with these things on. So, but I have felt a little bit with using these. My knuckles aren't aching. I got banged up knuckles from boxing all those years. Definitely check this out. Go to Graps Official on Instagram. Graps Supporting Gloves.
Check them out, Graps Supporting Gloves. All right, now one last thing I want to get into today, and this was something that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, me and you on a personal level, and that was some comments by Sam Alvey, and I am going to play that right now.
If you're smaller than him, don't fight him. I don't care how many black belts you have, you won't win. I've always claimed strength, size, muscles, they are all martial arts. Now they are not the traditional martial arts where you're punching, kicking, and jiu-jitsu. They are the martial arts you spend in the Iron Sanctuary. They are the martial arts that make you a danger to everyone. Now I know the claim, well, if I get him to the ground, he'll be useless. Yeah, how are you going to take that man down? You're going to shoot in on his leg. He's going to grab you by the scruff of the neck, and he's going to throw you wherever he wants to throw you. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below.
Sam Alvey, you are not in a position to be giving advice, technical advice. I'm sorry. I think you're a great dude. I love the fact that you smile all the time. I think you're tough. You even said it. You're tough and stupider than tough. Something you said. I don't even remember what it was. But you're probably a great guy. But you're not a technician. You should not be giving advice to technicians about being technical on who they can and cannot beat. This was possibly the dumbest take I've ever heard in my life. And I hate to even use that term because I hate when people say, "Oh, stupid take." But yes, this was pretty silly, Ryan.
Yeah, Sam. And Sam is a great dude. Like the whole Smiley Sam thing it's not a front. That dude smiles all the time if you ever meet him. And he's always like laughing. But this was just a horrible take. I've trained with Sam. I know he knows how to use body weight against you. So I don't know why he's saying this.
Do you think it was real? Maybe he was just saying it to get a reaction.
No, I don't know. He's so established on social media right now. He does not need to do that. So, like, I don't really know. I don't know. Maybe he was just bored in the truck. Like, I don't know. Like, it was definitely wrong. Jiu-jitsu works.
What?
If this guy had jiu-jitsu, it would work a little bit better. But
and that's why I think he's so irresponsible, man. This is what I hate about people when they speak about technique and technicians. Because you know a technique or two, you automatically think that you're a technician. So now you put yourself in this box that I'm technical. And then when your technique doesn't work, you go, I'm not strong enough. Well, maybe you're not as technical as you thought you were. Have you ever considered that? You're not as technical as you thought you were, and you don't have all the techniques?
I hate when people, like, especially in MMA, when someone's got a good guillotine, they think they have good jiu-jitsu, and then people are saying he's got a world-class guillotine. Shut the fuck up. He either has world-class jiu-jitsu or he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's got a world-class double leg. It's like the guy could take someone down.
And so I try to equate it to this too, Ryan, is that when we talk about technique, they use it in such a blanket statement.
Yeah.
He's technical. And what people fail to realize is the technique is just like saying knowledge, like he's smart. But just because you know math doesn't mean you know history, doesn't mean you know science, doesn't mean you know all of math. It just means that you have some things that work. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean that you weren't strong enough. It means that you didn't have all the techniques that you needed in the moment, or the techniques that you had were flawed. Maybe you didn't do them good. And I hate the fact that we've now assumed that just because someone is technical, and if it doesn't work, it's, he just wasn't strong enough. And or the saying, well, when technique is equal, strength matters. Who do you know has equal technique? That's like saying when somebody's the same smartness.
Yeah. Have we cloned each other yet?
Yes. No one has equal technique. Like, you do an arm bar different from my arm bar. Like, yours might work on some people that mine won't work on. Like, everything is so different for everybody else, but we put everybody in this box, which allows guys like Sam Alvey to go in there and go, I don't care about technique. If you fight a guy like this, you're going to lose. Like, man, if you don't shut up.
Yeah, I know. Like, I think that he was just bored and swinging. I mean, I've had
this been bored, man. He had this bored.
Now the wheels are turning. Who would you say? And we don't even have to say right now. Who would you say? And I mean, we have names. We know a lot of people. Let's try to stick to names that everyone else. Who would you say is the most technical fighter, well-rounded technical fighter you've ever seen?
And it's I'm gonna say it right now, and it's not even close. DJ.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Demetrius Johnson. And it's not even close. Because Demetrius Johnson is so good at what he does in terms of his technique, his philosophies, the way he moves, the way he executes. That combination he hit on Adriano Morai was the best combination I've ever seen.
But see, I feel like he gets away with a lot because of his athleticism.
He's fast. But see, you say that, right? But he also competes in the gi in the open divisions.
Because he's athletic.
And wins.
Yeah, he's pretty athletic. He's
fast. He's fast with his decision making and his technique.
Okay. Quick decision making. There is such thing there. I was going to go with George St. Pierre.
George St. Pierre could have been
But
okay. So if there was a second to me, it would be George St. Pierre. I know a lot of people would go, "Oh, John Jones." I don't
no,
think so.
I
I
see
think
John Jones. When was the last time he did something different in a fight?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that's why I would never put George St. Pierre. I mean, Anderson Silva in that category.
yeah, for sure. But you're right. I think George St. Pierre is definitely up there. But again, like you could use the same argument on George St. Pierre too, because he's an athlete. Like George is an athlete. Let's not.
Yeah. See, so it's all fucking There's too much shit.
But that doesn't take away from what they're doing, because there's a lot of people that are just as athletic as him at the end of the day. Like if you think about it, there's a lot of athletes out there. Like Pete Spratt is an athlete. I remember when we was in the house with Pete Spratt. Pete Spratt lapped all of us on all the exercises we did. Like lapped us, which they're like Uriah Faber has like started the combine for MMA fighters or something like that, or somebody did. And to me, I'm like, this is kind of stupid because it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Like having a combine for MMA. It's cool. It's a cool concept, and I think people will get behind it, but it really doesn't make a lot of sense because in a combine, like guys like Pete Spratt and Ryan Spann would kill everybody.
Yeah,
they can't really fight that great.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Cause you MMA combine, like even like tough tryouts would be like the closest thing to like a combine, so to speak, or like some regional shows had tryouts. Like it's not really like they have you spar for 5 minutes and then do some grappling. The tough tryouts don't do that, but yeah, it's very different. So I know what you're saying. Like you got to separate the athleticism, and you know what too? It's like how many times has how many didn't we have guys like in the NBA come in to try mixed martial arts?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like think about that. Like NFL players, for sure. Like Greg Hardy was probably the best athlete in the heavyweight division.
Yeah,
for sure, no doubt about that. Like for sure, he played college basketball, college football, NFL, Pro Bowler. Like there's nobody in the heavyweight division that was as athletic as him. And his ceiling was so low. And it had me fooled too, man, because I got caught up in that. And I thought that he could be better than he was. And I thought that he was more coachable than he was. It's not that he wasn't coachable. He just wasn't a good learner. He wasn't a good student.
Yeah, that surprised me too, because when he was at the gym, he was a good guy. Like he was really putting his head down and wanted to work. He didn't want
right, exactly. So, and I remember the first time I went on Joe Rogan, I was like, yo, Greg Hardy could be champ, because that's the guy we saw, right? He put his head down. He worked every day. He was getting better at a very fast rate. And then it just stopped. It stopped, man. Like he stopped getting better. He started getting banged, getting beat up, and then it went backwards.
I felt he should have changed the way he fought a little bit. I mean, you and I discussed this over the years. Like, he should have always kept his hands going. He had great hands, but like you said, like he had good hands, but when he fought people with great hands, he was getting pieced up. I just think football players, and this is my opinion, just have a natural MMA double leg, especially from the defensive side of the ball, because his level change is going to be faster than anybody in mixed martial arts, and his explosion. So if he just used hands and just took people down and controlled them, just chew the clock and score points, I think he would have been like a Shane Carwin,
Well, to pull the curtain back, when I first got him, that was the goal. My goal with him was to have, I said, dude, you made a career, a living, and you grew up putting people down, taking them off their feet and putting them on the ground. Let's do that. And you still want to punch people. Let's ground and pound them. Let's put them on their back and ground and pound them. No, coach, I want to knock people out. I want to box. I want to. Greg, I'm telling you, it's too risky. Like you can still punch people on the ground. Nah, I want to. And I said it the other day, man. It's easier for me. It's more satisfying for me to go on a UFC broadcast and roast fighters for their mistakes than it is to convince them to listen.
Yeah, and you do. You take advantage. Yeah. We all see it.
No, coach. I want to do. No, coach. All right. I'm gonna talk about you. I'm gonna talk about you.
No, coach. That's like hitting a nerve. No, coach.
No, coach. I was like, dude. Like, and I tell people, man, listen, everything you do on your feet, you can do on the ground too, man. You could punch people in the face on the ground, and they can't hit you back effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not take people down? Why not just run across and double leg dudes and pick them up and throw them down?
He could have been the first person to double leg someone through the fence.
He could have, man. He could have. And then, but he learned a valuable lesson, man. Like, he's still cutting his teeth, man, in the boxing world and bare knuckle and all that stuff, getting knocked around. But he had an opportunity, man. He could have really been UFC champ, perhaps, had he maintained his attitude that he had the first 6 months at Top Team. Like, the first 6 months at Top Team, man, he was the model student.
Yeah. And he was a good teammate too. Like, he was there for everybody. And like, I remember
like he wanted to be there, right?
He was going to do, it was so funny. He was thinking about doing the fantasy football league with me and my family and my friends. And I remember being like, hey guys, one of my teammates wants to do fantasy football. So like, name, like, Greg Hardy. And they're like, stop. I brought that to the table. He ended up not doing it. But no, Greg was the man. He was, when I first did my YouTube channel, he was the first interview I had. I was like, hey, I started this YouTube channel. I'm just going to plot my phone up. You cool with that? Like, yeah, man, let's do it. Tomorrow? All right, cool. Like, it was like, Greg was the man.
But hopefully his life is good for him now.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what he's up to too much. I just see what I see on the internet. But hopefully he's in a good place and he's happy. But Ryan, I'm in a good place. I'm happy. You're in a good place. You're happy.
Me too.
Appreciate you coming on. Let's do it again next week. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you hit like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't enjoy the show, just tell your friends about it. Maybe they'll enjoy the show. And on that note, this court is adjourned.